Why do I feel like I linger? Linger between the words to say, the...
Hey guys, it's Chris here. Today I wanted to talk about somebody from Bleach. You know, the anime's coming back. There's a lot of hype behind that. In particular, I wanted to talk about the head of the 6th Division and the 28th head of the Kuchiki clan, which is Byakuya Kuchiki. It's a bit of a big deal, to say the least, but the man is... Well, he's had a lot of character development, to say the least, over the course of the series. I'm not sure if I want to touch up on his role in the Thousand Year Blood War, only because there's a lot of spoilers for people who are either hopping back into the anime and want to see what happens in the new arc that is potentially getting released next year, or at the very least for somebody who hasn't read the manga either ever or in a while and doesn't want to be, spoiled for the new anime coming out. Whatever the reason is, I'll probably just make like covering captains during the Thousand Year Blood War or covering characters during the Thousand Year Blood War. I'll probably just make that a separate video entirely. But yeah, I just wanted to go over a few things like his role in the story, his powers. He's got some pretty cool powers. Not really going to be like a super comprehensive or exhaustive list of what he can do. This is just like a simple guide for people who kind of like completely forgot everything about Bleach. They watched the anime and didn't really have any contact with Bleach ever again, but they want to hop back into it. I remember when I jumped back into Bleach a couple of years ago, I knew all the like the big characters. Like I remembered most of the stuff about Byakuya and Toshiro, Kenpachi, the main cast. Ichigo and his ragtag group. But I had forgotten like all like the little stuff. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's Captain. That's the blind guy. So I know this would probably be helpful just to jog people's memory about certain things. And I say that as though like my brilliant idea is to help people remember, for time in the anime, but I'm also discussing one of the most popular characters and probably the least forgettable character in the show, or at least one of them. So, brownie points to me for not even following through on my plan. Anyway, so like when he's first introduced to the story, Byakuya is like nothing short of like a normal antagonist. You do see his struggle and stuff. Like at first, it's like, oh, he's like this captain who's super uppity. He doesn't think anybody's worth his time. He thinks everybody is trash. But he's got this sister, Rukia. It's like the plot twist, because we're introduced to Rukia before Byakuya, of course. It's like, plot twist, he's my brother, and it's like, oh wow, like that's crazy. And he's like super mean, and like Rukia broke like rules and stuff. He's like, oh, you came to the world of the living, and this, that, and the other. So she is being put up for execution for her role in like coming to the world of the living and doing what she did to Ichigo. And he's basically there to like drag her back himself, his own sister, drag her back to the Soul Society so she can be executed. Like, we are introduced to this man as not only being like, acting like he's above everybody else and he's better than everybody else. No, he is like downright cold-hearted. Like Renji tries his best to bring Rukia back, and we see that Renji's kind of like struggling with this, because he has that relationship with Rukia where they were like childhood friends, and they went through the academy together. We're not really given any of the specifics, but we are hinted at that this is a tough call for Renji to make himself. But Byakuya is just like, he's in there, he's slapping cheeks, he's taking care of business. He just rolls through, and he's like, oh, that's cute, you almost did something to my lieutenant who doesn't even have a Bankai. Now let me slap you into reality. And he does just that. He drags Rukia back pretty casually, just kind of, okay, I'll do it myself. I mean, if you guys want to play around, that's nice, but I'm going to come in and clean up after you. So, he's like the big head honcho kind of antagonist for the arc. Not really like, he doesn't particularly seem evil, like we don't really know the whole deal with the Soul Society at this part, but he definitely seems to be like almost like a personal antagonist or obstacle for Ichigo. Um, so he kind of does some weird stuff throughout the arc. Like I remember he almost attacked uh, Ganjo and one of the lieutenants. I can't remember his name. Lieutenant for Squad 4, I believe. Um, but he almost like attacks them with like malicious intent, and I think he was provoked if I remember correctly, but like it seems that one seems a little bit out of character, but I get it. They're trying to present him as like an antagonist and stuff. Antagonists can't be people we identify with. We move on to like giving him more human traits and like making him seem you know justified in his action later on in the arc after Ichigo puts the smackdown on him and redeems himself, and oh yeah, Ichigo main character protagonist powers. um so yeah, he's Mr. Bad Guy. Um, but he's presented also as like a very powerful character. Like he's like, at least for the Soul Society arc, Byakuya to Ichigo is like final boss level. Uh, which that I think that really cements like Ichigo's going into this this Soul Society or whatever, where he's fighting a bunch of people like Renji, who he had a fairly tough time with, and he's potentially going up against 13 people that are as strong as, almost as strong as, or much stronger than Byakuya. If I remember correctly, Byakuya like one shot and blitzed him casually, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to a place full of people like that to save Rukia." That's some. That's either some, like, you can call it what you want. It's either main protagonist level stupidity or like shonen protagonist level determination. I like to think of it as a healthy balance of both. Um, but he goes there, he gets help from Kisuke, and he's like, yeah, hook me up, fam. And he gets there, he has help from like people in the Rukongai district, like his distant relatives. We don't know yet, but his distant relatives, the Shibas. Um, Actually, if I remember correctly, Byakuya even starts to, he thinks after everything's said and done in the Soul Society arc that Ichigo kind of reminds him of Kaien, who was Rukia's captain, who was defeated and absorbed by Aranero, who is the ninth Espada. But yeah, he's helped by the Shibas. He's helped by Yoruichi. And Ichigo's going out and doing all of his things. Like he gets to the district gate and gets attacked by Gin. Um, so like he's like, all right. One of the things he figures out is like in order to even stand a chance against somebody like Byakuya, like through his encounters with the Soul Society, through like doing whatever it is that he was doing at the time, he realizes he's like, I need a Bankai, because like that's something that captains have. I forget if he's told or if he comes to this conclusion himself, but regardless, they do their training. Kisuke has his special training that he does. And he has like them do the thing. Him and Renji. Renji is actually, he swaps sides because we find out that Renji is Byakuya's lieutenant. So he basically serves as Byakuya's right hand man. But he feels so strongly about Rukia not being executed for what she's done that he actually switches sides, and he's like, I'm gonna put the smackdown on Byakuya. Like, just because he's some captain, doesn't mean nothing. I'm gonna save Rukia. It's me. I know all about the Soul Society and this, that, and the other. And he's like, it is my time to be the main protagonist. And he goes up against Byakuya and he gets slapped. He gets beat so hard. The man pulls out the Bankai, Zabimaru, uh, and he, it's pretty cool. Um, Even if I remember correctly, it's like one of the most trash Bankai in the entire series. It doesn't really do anything. It's cool and it's powerful, but it doesn't really do anything. And it's spoilers for Thousand Year Blood War. You just skip ahead like 20 or 30 seconds, but its true form that Renji unlocks in the Blood War is much cooler. In any case, so Byakuya, he's basically like very casually defeating everybody that's coming up against him. Like Ichigo tries to fight him before Ichigo even unlocks the Shikai. Blitz one shot with I don't even think he draws his sword, and if he does, I know he doesn't release it. Uh, Renji, I think he has to release Shikai, and he's using Zenbone Sakura, and like the blade turns into petals, and we'll get into all that. But basically, he's using like Byakurai and all of his Kidos and stuff to defeat Renji, and he defeats him pretty handily. It's not. I wouldn't say it's an entire like stomp, but it's a very decisive victory. Um, so we don't see too much of Byakuya, but later on, um, when Ruki is getting executed, this is basically like, Ichigo's fought Kenpachi, and Ichigo's fought like the lieutenants, like Ikaku and everyone, and he's been working his way through the Soul Society, and he's been trying to get to Rukia, and he's gonna save her. So he gets to the hill, and he's confronted by like 3 lieutenants or whatever. They're like, the captains are like, just like get rid of this dude, like he's trash, and like Byakuya, I don't think at the time is too concerned, but when he absolutely like stomps the 3 lieutenants, I think it was Omaida, Isane, and Chojuro, Yamamoto's lieutenant. After he like completely stomps them without even drawing his sword, they're like, "Oh, well, okay." So they're actually treating Ichigo like a genuine threat now, and basically what this amounts to is, the captains, they're having their thing, and they're like, oh, we must stop him, he doesn't understand our ways, and Ichigo stops the execution. He's like, shonen protagonist, main protagonist powers of the main protagonist. I have plot armor, so I can't be defeated. Also, I'm immensely stronger than when you fought me the first time. And Byakuya is like, that's cool, but like I'm still the final boss. Like I think I can still win. So they do a little clash, and Ichigo uses his Bankai, and Byakuya is like, wow, your Bankai is disappointing, you are disappointing, and you trash. And then he tries to destroy him, and Ichigo, like, blitzes him, and he's like, oh, okay. I wasn't really expecting this, but I guess I'm gonna have to try. And that he does. He uses his Bankai to catch up with Ichigo. He even ends up using, like, normally he can control Zenbone Sakura Kageyoshi with his mind, but he actually has to use his hand, which makes it faster, and I think he actually even ends up having to use 2 hands, which doubles its speed. Um, so this is very impressive for Ichigo's Bankai. Like his speed has increased to some pretty substantial levels. But basically what this comes out to is Byakuya is actually trying here. Ichigo's, trying pretty hard as well. He's unlocked his Bankai, and he's clashing toe to toe. But then Byakuya uses Senkei, which basically creates this massive arena that circles around himself and his opponent. So basically, if you try to run in any direction, you're going to get blocked. And the arena is made of these swords, these pink swords, and they're actually made of like thousands of the petals of Senbon Sakura. So it's basically a sword made of thousands of tinier swords, and there are like hundreds of thousands of these that make the full circle, and there are like 4 or 5 rows of them stacked up vertically, so it literally looks like a coliseum of like blades. It's a very cool power, and basically what he does is he's able to summon one of those blades and attack the person with it. Um, he he gets a way cooler use from it later on in the series, in the final arc. We won't be covering that in this video, but basically, he has a few other uses he can do. Like, that's just Senkei. He also has, like, Gote, and, like, I can't remember the one where he forms them all into blades, like, Shunkei Hakuteiken or something like that. And basically, for Gote, he like creates a giant ball around his opponent and it's like the storm of petals, and he can just enclose them and like shred them into pieces. Like you can't escape. Like unless you can like teleport or you're like Kisuke and you can literally like cut a hole through the petals. Um, whatever the case may be. If you're stronger than Byakuya, then yeah, you can just blow through the petals and be like, haha, I am even more final boss than you. But, it doesn't really work like that if you're the same strength as Byakuya or weaker. He shreds you to pieces. Look at Zamori. Zamori was like, oh, I'm very fast. And Byakuya is like, okay, then you can move a lot in this little gerbil ball I'm going to put you in. And then, when you're done running around, I will destroy you. And then he did. And it was epic. But regardless, he has the Gote. Which, now that I'm thinking about it, probably would have been good to use against Ichigo, but that was besides the point. Then he has the Shunkei Hakuteiken, where basically he forms every single one of his petals into a set of angel wings, a halo that's fairly large around his back side, and one blade. So like hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of tiny blades all in one blade. And he strikes you, and it's like, well, you're pretty much dead after you get hit with that. That's like in Tekken 7 with Yoshimitsu and all of his one-hit kill moves. That's pretty much the equivalent. Like, I'm not here saying that he can kill anybody in the Bleach verse or anybody in fiction with his Shunkei Hakuteiken, but it is a pretty devastating attack to say the least. But yeah, he has multiple uses for Senbon Sakura and Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi, his Shikai and Bankai. But, if you're looking for somebody who has many hacks abilities, he doesn't. 90% of his moves, he does have like sealing and stuff from his, Kido, his Hado and Byakurai. Or not Byakurai, excuse me, his Bakudo. He has sealing with his Bakudo. He has some I think he might have hacks with his Hado, I'm not sure, but he has Kido abilities. That's more so his hacks area. But his, Shikai and Bankai are purely attack potency. He's just sitting there cutting you and slicing you up. The best you could say about it is that it's like an omnidirectional attack, and it's very hard to deal with. It's also pretty fast, and it can be used as an offense, like he sends a tidal wave of Sakura petals after you to shred you to pieces, cut you in half, or he can use it as a defense. He can actually form a shield, like a dome around himself with these Sakura petals, and it becomes incredibly difficult to actually hit him. It doesn't help that the dude trained with Yoruichi as far as Shunpo goes, so the man is pretty fast. Like, he has, like, two techniques, like Senka, where he can seal your spiritual pressure by using Flash Step to get behind you and striking 2 points on your body. And he has the Utsusemi, which basically, like, he uses his coat as a distraction, and he Shunpos, like, so precisely and so quickly at the very last second that, he leaves an after image. Like, you hit the coat that he left behind, and you think you hit him, but you didn't. You just hit his after image, and he's behind you with the Omoe wa mo Shindeiru. Sorry, that was totally cringe. But in any case, yeah, I mean, he's pretty talented as far as like combat goes. He's a brilliant strategist. He has a very powerful Zanpakuto. So he's fighting Ichigo, and they're putting up a good match against each other. But Senkei comes out, the Coliseum of Blades, basically, and that's when Ichigo starts to lose. He's not doing too well at this point. He can't really compensate for the power that Byakuya is really bringing to the table here, but he does have his, anime protagonist, Super Saiyan, Nine Tails chakra moment where he releases his Hollow Mask, Ichigo, and starts, putting up a good fight against Byakuya. But then, like, Ichigo, he only uses his own power, and it's going to be him who defeats Byakuya, and he resists the power of the Hollow within, and fights Byakuya, and they have their little clash, and basically the end result is everybody is happy. Byakuya gets severely wounded. Ichigo also sustains some injuries, but both characters live. Rukia is not killed. She is not executed. And, of course, the whole incident with Aizen betraying the Soul Society, Kaname and Gin helping him, that starts to transpire. Aizen doing all his mischief and whatnot, and then dipping the hell out of there with the Negacion, um, after taking off his glasses and revealing plot twist. He is not, in fact, a good boy, but indeed a bad boy. Um, Slicks his hair back and he thinks he's like a tunnel snake or something. But basically, Byakuya realizes, hey, you know what? My sister was going to get executed, but she's a good person. And Aizen was a piece of garbage, but despite him being this bad person, the law didn't really do anything about him. Isn't that something? So Byakuya realizes that, all the laws aren't absolute and completely just. Like, his whole character arc is built on the fact that, like, he has to follow the laws and lawbreakers should be punished. He as the head captain, or he as the captain of Squad 6 and the 28th head of the Kuchiki clan, he has to set an example for everybody. He has to punish the wrongdoers, and he has to, be a good guy. He has to follow the laws. He even, because of his whole thing with his wife, because he's like a noble, he's part of the four great noble families, which, like, not only is he a noble, he's one of the noblest nobles of all the nobles. He actually married like somebody from the Rukongai district, which was Rukia's older sister, and that's like a big no-no. That's like the Prince of England and how he married like a quote-unquote commoner, or like how Daniel Radcliffe married somebody who was not like a celebrity. Like, it's pretty normal, whatever. They married for love, but like it's seen as taboo because old people, tradition. So basically everyone was like, that's a bad. And then his wife passes away, and her final wish is that he goes to the Rukongai district and adopts her sister Rukia. So now Byakuya goes to the Rukongai district and adopts Rukia as his sister to, fulfill her final wish. And that's another no-no. Like, okay, first you married a poor person, now you're adopting a poor person. If you keep on like this, you're gonna be a poor person. So everyone's having grief with his decisions and how he's breaking all the rules. Um, but yeah, he's like, you know what? I gotta be honorable for my parents. Yeah, his parents have passed away. It's like, so I swear on my dead father's grave, on my dead mother's grave, that I will follow the rules because the rules are just and right. Even though he broke the rules because they were like stupid. Like, okay, I can't marry a poor person even though I love her because she's poor, and I can't adopt this person that I said I would adopt to appease my dead wife's final wishes because she doesn't have money. Okay. So he swears that he won't break any more rules and bring dishonor to the Kuchiki name. Um, so that's why he's got this, like, obsession with following the rules. But after the Aizen incident, he really comes to terms with the fact that, like, okay, maybe the rules aren't 100% correct all the time. So, he starts exploiting loopholes and stuff like that. Not breaking rules, but kind of like, okay, the rule doesn't specifically say anything about this exact thing. So, exploiting loopholes to help Rukia, and by extension, he starts to warm up to Renji, and then, bit by bit, he even starts warming up to Rukia's, world of the living friends, like Ichigo and Chad. I don't think he ever really warms up to Chad and Uryu that much, and he doesn't really have that much contact with Orihime that I remember. But Ichigo, that's a really big step. Like, he didn't really, like, I'd be remiss to say that he didn't hate Ichigo. Like, I think he hated Ichigo, like, personally. Normally, he didn't really get his emotions involved in stuff. Like, he just kind of had this attitude where, like, everyone was trash and they weren't worth his time. But he, like, also felt that way about Ichigo. But, like, Ichigo was like, you're no better than anyone else, and that really ticked him off. So it was kind of even personal with Ichigo, their whole scuffle multiple times, and Ichigo was like, I'm gonna come up to the execution hill and knock your block off, and Byakuya was like, no. Um, so they had their whole thing, but he even started warming up to Ichigo in the end. Um, so yeah, he goes through, like, of course he has his time in Hueco Mundo where he's, fighting Zomori and saving Rukia. from Zamori, and he's like fighting Yami with Kenpachi. They have their little competition: who wins the strong, brilliant, and elegant Byakuya, or the bloodthirsty berserker Kenpachi. Who can do more damage to this Yami. They kind of have like a Gimli Legolas thing going on from Lord of the Rings. Um, and he also makes an appearance to fight Tsukushima in the final arc of the anime. Um, he does really well against Tsukushima. I think he was one of the only characters that could actually, stand up to Tsukushima just because of his power. Like Tsukushima, if you guys don't remember, if he cuts people, it doesn't really, present like a cut. But what he's actually doing is he's using his sword, Book of the End, to basically insert himself into people's past. So it almost seems like he's brainwashing them, but he's actually manipulating. I forget if he's manipulating time or causality, but he's basically inserting himself into people's pasts. So, he's changing the cause so that the effect will be in his favor. So, like, he's now making for example, he slices the ground and he inserts himself into the area's past so that he can set traps. So like before, the cause was he hadn't been there, so the effect was that there were no traps. But with his sword, he injects himself into the past, so the cause is he had been there before, and the effect was he was able to set traps. Byakuya, while he's fighting him, has to deal with traps and stuff like that. And he slices one of Byakuya's petals from Senbon Sakura. He's like, okay, now I'm actually the person who helped you develop Senbon Sakura, and I know everything about it. And I know for a fact that you actually have a weakness where there is an area around you that the petals can't enter. And Byakuya, being the intelligent man that he is, he actually misled Tsukushima in the past that Tsukushima made, in that petals. It's not that petals can't come in that area, it's that he doesn't like them to come in that area because it's harder to make sure that the petals don't cut Byakuya, the harmless zone. So Tsukushima finds a way to get into the harmless zone. Byakuya surprises him by still being able to attack him. They go blow for blow for a while. They're countering each other. Byakuya being a brilliant strategist and very calm-minded, and he's of course a captain, so he's powerful, and his battle sense is good. So they're going blow for blow. Tsukushima's changing things in the past so that the future will be different, stuff like that. But then finally, Byakuya uses that trick where he hides the Sakura petals in his hand. Tsukushima gets close to finish him off, and Byakuya opens his hand, lets the petals out, and completely blows a hole through Tsukushima, killing him. So Byakuya shows his brilliant strategist right there. So of course, his sword is very powerful, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. He is definitely a Kido master. I'd even say he's an advanced master. I don't know if he's on the level of I can't remember the guy, but he's basically the Kido master of the Soul Society before he left with Kisuke anyway. I don't think he's on the level of him or Jushiro or anybody like that, but he's definitely even overall I'd consider him a high tier, up there with Kenpachi and Toshiro. Not quite up there with people like for most of the series Unohana, or Shunsui, who's stated I think a few times to be one of the strongest Soul Reapers to have ever existed. Of course, Yamamoto being the head captain, stuff like that. I don't think he's up there with the big boys, but he presents a genuine threat to Ichigo, and it is genuinely comforting when he arrives to help Ichigo. So yeah, that's pretty much his role throughout the story. He serves an antagonistic role for the first bit, and then he's not really a minor character, but a supporting character, who definitely makes his presence known. He's a very cool character. He's a fan favorite for sure. Very powerful, smart. He's very adaptable, and that's always a good trait to have. The 1,000-Year Blood War really pushes his role in the story, and gives him another character arc. Not something huge, but a lot of characters get some development in the 1,000-Year Blood War, so he really gets to flex his muscles there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to cover about Byakuya. We went over his his powers. We went over his role in the story more or less. Did a brief overview based off of my memory. So yeah, I think the next video is going to be about either Toshiro Hitsugaya, the captain of Squad 10, or Sajin Kobomura. and that is to say if my next video is about Bleach. I'm thinking about knocking out 4 Bleach videos. I'm thinking about knocking out Toshiro, Sajin, and Shunsui, because those are some of my favorite captains personally. And I think I'm going to shift gears to another anime. Bleach is not gone forever. Of course, I'll be covering the 1,000-Year Blood War version of those 4 characters as well, and then I'll be covering different characters. Like, I want to cover quite a few of the captains. But you know, there are also animes that I want to like talk about, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. You know, I love that anime. I must admit, I am a Part 1 purist. Jonathan is my favorite JoJo. I like all the other JoJos quite a bit. I've of course got my preference for each one, but Jonathan is in fact my favorite. Call me a basic bitch. It's fine. I thrive on your negative comments, but yeah, there's also stuff like, of course, if you could tell by my intro, my favorite anime and my favorite manga of all time is Baki the Grappler. I am a huge Baki the Grappler freak. I love anything to do with Baki the Grappler. I love Kengan Ashura by extension because it's like Baki the Grappler. There are a few other animes. I actually haven't watched uh, History's Mightiest Disciple Kenichi, but I'm thinking about getting into that just because, you know, I've heard people compare it to, you know, it's somewhat like a fusion between Dragon Ball and Baki the Grappler. But I'm a super Baki the Grappler freak. Uh, don't front. I'm definitely going to be covering a bunch of stuff about Baki the Grappler. But things like JoJo, things like Bleach, of course, this is my first video. I plan to make a ton of content. This, for now, I don't really know what I want to do with my channel, but this channel is basically going to be about um, whatever I want to talk about. Of course, I'm going to look in the comments section to see what people want to hear me talk about, but for the most part, if I don't, like, I'm not expecting the channel to grow to 1 million subscribers overnight, but basically what I'm going to start off doing is just talking about what I want to talk about. I have a little slideshow in the background. I don't exactly have, like, a backdrop set up yet, like a green screen or anything. I actually don't even know when that'll be a possibility. I'm still trying to work out a few audio kinks, but for the most part, I think I've got everything down. I've recorded this video like 3 times, so you know, I'm hoping this one comes out better. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Byakuya. You know, talked about my plans for the future a little bit there. You know, I'm looking forward to if I get 100 subscribers. You know, that's my goal right now. You know, you got to start off small. But yeah, okay, that's it for Byakuya, guys. Thanks for watching. You know, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't. I thrive off of all kinds of you know, attention, be it positive or negative. Your comments are great for the algorithm. They'll push the video so that more people will be able to see it, so my channel will be able to grow. And subscribe if you actually want to see those Baki videos, those Kengan videos, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, talking about all parts, you know, from Phantom Blood to JoJolion. Those Bleach videos I have coming up. You know, subscribe if you want to be in contact with all that. You know, ring that bell because YouTube is busted, and that's something people have to do now for some reason. Thanks, YouTube. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.